but professional development is an important topic. And so we wanted to explore that today. And we wanted to do something unique that might be different from any kind of professional development curriculum you might have at your school or at the place where you're interning for the summer. And so this is meant to be something really kind of differentiated that gives you a sneak peek into a topic that maybe will be relevant to you in a few years, but knowing about it up front will give you a leg up, we think, as you're starting your career. And so I mentioned there's one more event. There's a coffee tomorrow. It's just really casual, so it's the last event of the week. And then throughout the rest of the summer, we'll have other events that are rescheduled because of weather. We'll have other things kind of going on for interns, including now we'll offer this recording so people that aren't here today can watch it. So the topic for today is on leadership programs. We'll talk about what they are, why they could be valuable, why they could be an important part of your professional development journey. And there's this really great resource in Minnesota because there's a lot of really great leadership programs. We're going to talk about 3 of them today. We'll try not to go too deep into the weeds because, again, like these are things to be thinking about for the future. But this resource that you should have had in the kind of Eventbrite when you signed up, there's a link on your table. There's a worksheet with a QR code where you can find this resource and we'll email it to people afterwards. There's actually this database that shows you all the different leadership programs that you could apply to at some point in your career. Some of them are based here, some of them are based somewhere else, but you can access them. And so when you hear about the examples today, know that there are like dozens of other great programs out there that might be the right fit for you based on what you want in your career. But we didn't have time to hear from 25 different leaders today, so we picked 3 really great ones to join us. So I'm going to invite up our partners, Tiana, Zach, and Samantha, to maybe sit up here, and I'm going to bring a microphone that we'll pass around. We're going to have a discussion for the next kind of 20, 30 minutes about leadership. Really quick, what's on? See if this works. Yeah, I think this is working. Yes. Is this working? Yeah. All right. Turn this one on. Maybe I'll have somebody else hold it and we'll pass it around just so I don't get the feedback in the system. All right. Well, maybe when I ask the first question, I'll have you like formally introduce each of yourself and talk more about your role at the organization and anything relevant from your bio that you think people should know. I wanted to keep it casual. So maybe I'll start with you, Zach, but the first question's for everybody as we rotate. So tell everybody about the leadership program that you help run at your organization, or programs, I guess. Who's it for? What does it focus on? And anything else about the format that might be relevant? Sure.
So yeah, I introduced myself earlier, Zach Kramer with the Minneapolis Regional Chamber. So I run our leadership development programs, but I do not have a degree in leadership development or even nonprofit management. I actually have an engineering degree. I went to Penn State University to study energy engineering. I was really interested in sustainability and renewable energy. And I used to do consulting work for architects and engineers, designing energy efficient and sustainable buildings around the metro. But I also, on the side, always volunteered with community development organizations like the Young Professionals of Minneapolis, got involved with that, joined their board, became the president, loved it so much that I decided to make a whole career change into that, working for the chamber and helping people also be connected with their community and making it a better place for everyone. So I run a program called Leadership Twin Cities. It is a program that's not leadership training when you think of like a workshop and people are training you like how to be a people manager. It's nothing like that. It's actually about people that are interested in getting more engaged in their community and taking on more responsibilities to make a greater impact and a better place for everyone. So it's pretty much for anyone who is passionate and has demonstrated evidence of being engaged with their community and having a desire to make it a better place for everyone. In terms of areas of focus, lots of awesome networking. Since anyone is pretty much eligible to apply for it, we have people from the ages of 25 to 65 or up. We have people from the government, nonprofit, and business sectors. We have people from many different industries, different educational backgrounds. So it's a great way to meet people from many diverse different backgrounds and have a true cross-section of the MSP community. Our areas of focus are also awareness of critical issues going on in the Twin Cities. So we have a lot of great assets in the Twin Cities, but also a lot of disparities. So it's being transparent and helping people be aware of what's going on in your own backyard. And once you have that awareness, we also teach people about the different organizations and systems around the MSP Metro so that you can be aware of how to plug in to those different organizations like Greater MSP, for example, and the Chamber, and many other awesome nonprofits in our community. And also just teaching people some examples of opportunities to volunteer or serve on boards or different ways that they can use their time and services to help the community. And the format of the program is a cohort of about 60 people from all these different sectors. And on average, they meet once a month for 9 months for a full business day, and we dive deep into specific topics, such as we'll have a whole day dedicated to like education and another day dedicated to economic development, sustainability, safety, justice, the arts, all the things around different ways people can be civically engaged in the community. We try to have a day focused on that, do a deep dive in it. And that's Leadership Twin Cities.
Thank you. Hi, everyone in the room and online watching this later. My name is Tiana Bellamy. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Deputy Director of Business Development with the partnership. And I think the thing I'll share about my background is that I am a proud alumni of the Josie R. Johnson Leadership Academy with African American Leadership Forum. So I'm familiar with the impact that leadership development programs can have on someone. And it's one of the reasons that I decided to take on this role with the partnership. And before I get into the program that I am responsible for in building out our business strategy here in Minnesota, the partnership overall is really an organization that is dedicated to the recruitment, the retention, and the advancement of professionals of color across the nation. It was designed in Boston over 30 years ago by the business community and leaders there. And it's a national network of now well over 6,000 alumni that are all interconnected to this kind of greater vision of making sure that everyone, and especially like professionals of color, can go farther faster. And so I have the honor and privilege of really managing and helping design the Minnesota Black Fellows Program, which is a partnership between the Minnesota Business Coalition for Racial Equity and partnership. I still haven't found the best word to
collaboration.
Collaboration. Yeah, collaboration between the partnership. Yeah, it's tricky. And the Minnesota Black Fellows Program serves Black professionals across Minnesota that have about 7 to 10 years of professional experience and are really looking to move into that next kind of chapter in their careers. And it is also kind of a cross-industry cohort. This is really a program that, much like a lot of our leadership development programs with the partnership, is for people who are really looking for those more formal kind of leadership positions in companies. So that's when you would come to a leadership program with a partnership. And our curriculum in the fellows or that mid-career program is really about coalition building. It's leading change and change management. And it's helping to build your professional presence and how you can really weave in your own cultural assets to your leadership style, and really recognizing that the background that you hold is an asset and an advantage to your leadership in your career. And the format is that it's February to December. They're monthly kind of curriculum sessions. And then there's a cohort learning component. So you're grouped with a couple of people that you can dive deeper with the content for. And then there are, in Minnesota, for the Minnesota Black Fellows Program, there are in-person quarterly networking events to help build, your name recognition in the region, as well as just making those kind of peer connections that you'll need in your career moving forward. And then the supports that we offer as a part of that program are really personalized assessments. So we do things like peers breaks and a couple of others. And then we also leverage managerial engagement. So we make sure that the people that are supporting you in your job are also supporting you through your time at the partnership. And I'll go ahead and pass it on. We'll talk more later.
Perfect. Well, thank you. So my name is Samantha Silker. I'm the Director of Operations at the Center for Integrative Leadership. I guess just a little bit about myself. I've been at the University of Minnesota for about 10 years, but prior to that, I had worked at a nonprofit. I had also worked at a small community bank and had various experiences in college, interning in different congressional campaign offices, both in Wisconsin and in DC. And so had quite like cross-sector background myself before finding the role that I'm currently in. And so how that all ties in together is, so I'm at the Center for Integrative Leadership at the University of Minnesota, and the center is specifically focused on cross-sector leadership and development. And so how nonprofits, business and government public or organizations really work together to solve those complex societal challenges. And right, those organizations are made up of individuals and people that are all working across the different sectors. And so that's the focus of the center. And there's a lot of things that the center does, but specifically the reason I'm here today is the program that we offer called the Minnesota Young American Leaders Program, which, no surprise, what the center's focused on, the MELD for short, MELD, is focused on cross-sector leadership development and collaboration. And so it brings together roughly 60 individuals across the state of Minnesota. I'm really focused on kind of in the bigger regional hubs. So Minneapolis, St. Paul, Duluth, Fargo, Moorhead, St. Cloud, Rochester, and Mankato. I got all 6 there. And it's really a curated group of individuals across those different sectors, but across different, whether that be lived experiences, gender, industries, roles. And so really a specific curated group of individuals that comes together really for a 4-day intensive at the University of Minnesota. So a little, right, you're hearing different formats to programs. And so this is a really 4-day intensive that is a combination of different classroom sessions, kind of back at college, back in college a little bit, but also hearing from different, I can be loud. So hearing from different leaders as well. And really the focus is to help these leaders bring or learn and expand on different tools and skills for cross-sector leadership and collaboration. But also there's a focus on understanding just what's going on in the US and in the Minnesota economy and how that impacts shared prosperity and shared prosperity for whom. As well as being able to network. We've heard and meet other leaders. And I'd say a really unique thing about the program as well as a project component. And so ours, right, you're kind of intensely all together at the University of Minnesota, staying on campus. But then afterwards, there's an opportunity for different project groups to be formed and figure out how you could take an idea to action and actually have that be in your community. And then our center at the university provides different graduate student consulting support, more research support to really take that idea to action. And so individuals that participate in the program are generally mid-career professionals, but at a minimum of having 7 years. And often, I think with that cross-sector nature, many of them are coming from very different backgrounds and often might not have a linear path in their career path that, I think you had
heard me describe that I didn't have, and it also fit really nicely within this kind of cross-sector collaborative space. I know there'll be other things to share, but that's all I'll share now.
We'll see if this works, if we get past this, but
Yeah.
a couple of the other microphones are also the batteries in. So I had not mentioned, like other people up here, like Tiana mentioned the Josie Johnson leadership program. Leadership programs played an important part in my career journey too. I found one it's actually now defunct, so you wouldn't find it in the database, but I was several years into my career and I found a thing it was called Generation Now Leadership Visit. It was a thing that was modeled after a program that the Minneapolis Chamber helps run, where later career leaders go to another region in the country together as a group of 50 to kind of study how that community is making decisions about important issues. And this was an opportunity for kind of young professionals to do something similar. So 50 of us got on a bus and went to Milwaukee for a couple of days. And at the time, I thought it was cool. But it turns out I actually ended up meeting the people that I worked for the last 15 years and that I worked with. And then, in the long run, I now recognize that that moment, that decision to do that program changed the entire trajectory. And so you don't even appreciate it at the time, some of these opportunities. So if you're thinking about you're just starting your career, you're sophomore at Normandale, or maybe you're about to graduate and you're going to enter the full-time workforce in the fall, wherever you are, you're probably a few years away from the programs that you're describing. But I'm wondering, from having run these programs, whether it's a few years into your career or I guess when you're 65, what are some things that you notice about applicants and the people who are successful participating in the program, maybe decisions that they made at the very beginnings of their careers that maybe ended up positioning them later on to be really good applicants and candidates for the programs or get the most out of them. We'll try passing this, and if it doesn't work, we'll just, raise our voice.
Okay, so you're early on in your career and you're like, how do I get to where I want to go? There's very easily, my best advice is to find your community, find where you have the greatest sense of belonging and just lean into it. Because these different communities, say a professional association, or maybe it is your place of work, or it could be a neighborhood association or a group. If you're in an apartment building, you might have some type of fund committee or something. Any type of community that is filling up your cup, that is making you better than you were when you first stepped in, that is a investment that has a great return. And so spend your time volunteering to support that organization, and your dividends will be astronomical because it's ultimately expanding your capacity and helping you develop new skills that are transferable for your future professional career. Because as you're going to get your first job out of school, obviously your entry-level position is probably not going to be a manager, and it might take a couple years or 10 years for different people to get up to a certain promotion that you might be aiming for, but it's hard to get the experience within your own career. So there's different volunteer opportunities for you to be a part of certain committees or run certain committees as a volunteer, whether it's a committee within your place of work or through a nonprofit or association outside. And that can give you a lot of skills that are transferable for you to put on your resume and ultimately build your capacity as an individual. And the more that you keep on investing in yourself, you'll be able to do more and more. And the people applying for my programs have been shown clear evidence that they spend their free time investing in themselves and the community. And that's the type of people that we want to admit into the program so we can accelerate their path even further and have them do more stuff and make a greater impact. So that's what I would say.
I think my contribution to the things that you can do to set yourself up for success and set yourself up to really be ready for these kinds of mid-career leadership development programs in a couple of years is to cultivate within yourself the resilience that it takes and the kind of problem-solving mindset. You know, I think that one of the things that you do early on in your career is you learn how to assess a situation, you know, anything that's going on in your career, a problem, a challenge, a hurdle. And the skills that you're building there is how to navigate it, how to circumvent it, how to deconstruct it, how to, you know, find a different way around. And I would really recommend to all of you to think about that as your first kind of step in your career, because what it does is if that's your focus, right? If problem solving, if taking care of yourself and finding that balance is really early on in your career, it makes it a whole lot easier to understand and empathize with the people that you will lead in the future, moving forward in your career. And it will also help set you up for that transition that you make from going from, you know, being someone that is a kind of independent contributor in an organization to someone that is leading, and that transition to, you know, we can circumvent a problem. How do we make a situation where the problem just doesn't even exist? How do we build something new that, you know, isn't yet extant? And I think that that's kind of the natural progression that the partnership uses too when we think about our pipeline of development programs. Is like those first early career programs are really how do you solve the problems? The next step is how do you build new realities? The third one is how do you help other people build those new realities with you? So that's what I would recommend.
Thank you. Well, not to repeat anything I've already heard today, just echo a lot of what I've heard, but I think one thing I see in the participants that are participating in our program, and not all of the participants, right? But in a large number, and that I connect with myself, is that many times, right, your career path is not going to be linear, and sometimes it is, right? Sometimes someone knows very early on that they want to be X, Y, Z, and then that works out lovely and they love it, right? And other times your career takes you in very different pathways because of an experience that you had. And so we see a lot of the participants that are coming in with, you know, I'll use myself as an example, right? I was at a community bank doing community events, and I became an aquatics director. And then I was suddenly at the university. And if you just look at that on paper, it's oh, what was she doing? Did she not know what she kind of wanted to do? So, well, I look back and I was like, no, I had a very clear idea. I just was drawn to different things, and I took different opportunities. And that allowed me personally to learn and grow through these different opportunities and having this lens of community engagement. And no, it didn't necessarily fit into the box of one sector or one type of role. But it really was kind of this balance of kind of what we've heard here, right? This individual development, this connection. And so I think all of that, to tie into my direct advice, is also just spending some time early in your career journey of just reflecting on self and what is your story. And you might not, you know, no one ever knows the end of their story, or even you're at the beginning maybe of that story. But that path and that story is going to look different for everyone. And so I think when people are applying to our program, like, yes, you submit a resume, but there's an application of an opportunity for individuals to tell their story and to tie that all together and to add more of that information to really give that depth to who the individual is and what you're doing and what you're passionate about. So echoing all that I've heard, and I think that is something that I've seen when people kind of have a strong sense of themselves, but also not just that you're going to be, this is who I am forever, of open to those different opportunities to learn and grow.
So when it comes to professional development, I was thinking before we put this together that One part of that are like building skills, and that's like a little more, at least to me, like straightforward to understand. Like I might take this class, or I might, spend this time, I build this skill, I might get a badge for it, I might put it on my resume. Another kind of component is like networking, and I understand, I might meet this person, I might add them to my network, I might benefit from that. One of the things about leadership programs is like they're a little like amorphous, kind of hard to understand. Some of them might be actually designed to maybe help build your network. Some of them might be designed to help build specific skills. Some of them might be designed for a broader purpose. So each of you talk about for your programs, yours are a little bit like there's a broader array of people that can participate in your programs. Like in that database I described, you'll find like specific programs that might only be relevant to like the campus or a particular location. So in each of your programs, how do you balance like what you think people are getting out of it, or could get out of it, and how do you design it? What are some of the components, whether it's network or content or ways of thinking or anything else?
Yeah, sure. So I would say our program, Leadership Twin Cities, there's a great emphasis on a sense of purpose and self-discovery of like what is important to you. And I try to structure the program in a way to give you all the tools that you need to set a goal, figure out what you want to do, set a goal, and actually have the tools necessary to be successful in executing on that goal. So kind of like the structure with the content that we provide is educating you on certain challenges that our community is experiencing. So we talk about many different aspects of different things going on in many different neighborhoods and communities. And ultimately, it's up for those people experiencing that to see like what struck them, like what hit a nerve, what is really lighting a fire underneath them to say like, I want to lean into this and focus on addressing that. And the network, our program actually pairs people up with similar civic interests. And they, in addition to getting to know everyone in the cohort of 60 people, I pair them up with a group of 10 people or so that are all interested in, say, sustainability as an example. And they all get together at the end of every program day, and they talk about what they got out of each day and also what their own goals are and how they can all support each other in their goals. So they're not necessarily working on a group project together, which, as we all know from group projects in school and everything, those can get a little frustrating sometimes because people aren't all in alignment with the same goal. But anyone individually that has something that they want to do in their community, we align people with similar interests to give them their own mini community that can provide support and resources. So ultimately, it's the network of people, the knowledge of the content, and the sense of purpose that ties it all together. You have so much more capacity to do more than you ever could as one person because you have the support and knowledge of all these people participating in the program together.
I think I would echo a lot of the same themes that, it's a balance, right? And I think that the partnership historically and still today is very content heavy, curriculum heavy. We have a lot of faculty members throughout the year that are really doing those kind of hard skills developmental trainings for the people that participate in our programs. And so the balance there is to make sure that we're also helping you find your people, not only within this vast partnership network, but where you are in your organization, where you are in the community that you live in. And so, again, I talked a little bit about that managerial kind of connection that we have in our programs, but it is really important, and it's an intentional part of partnership programs that we are bringing in managers to those like celebrations of you, that we are having managers take courses that our content specialists provide so that they know how to best support the people that go through our programs. And, you know, I think the cohort model of that is another way that we help really kind of build that resonance with the connections. But then I would also say that there is, you know, the partnership focuses on professionals of color. And we know that there are a lot of reasons, a lot of structural barriers, a lot of just internal like bias that make it hard for professionals of color to breach some of those boundaries where they want to go in their professional journey. And part of that focus has led to the partnership being really, really grounded in that change management, figuring out, you know, like how do we train people to be change leaders so that they, you know, can get where they need to go and open the door and keep that or crack the door or keep pulling the door wider and wider so that we can continue, you know, having the diverse, experienced, talented leaders that all of our communities deserve. And so, you know, there's some more tangible components and intangible components, but one of the things that I want to celebrate both the partnership for, but also ALF for, as you know, as someone that experienced this feeling, and as someone who has heard from partnership, you know, partnership participants that they've experienced the same, is that moment in a leadership development program. The first moment, or the first moment that I had was I walked in to that ALF room. I saw everyone there. And I was like, oh my goodness, why am I here? I don't belong here. Like, look at all of these like really talented, really like experts almost. Like you're also smart, you're also accomplished, you've got track records a mile long. Why am I even here? And I think there is that moment in leadership development programs that maybe anyone here that has participated in one can say aloud is there's the moment where you recognize not just that it's okay that you're in the room with them, but you understand why you're there with your cohort, with your peers, with those facilitators. You can recognize that. And I think that moment of belonging is such a powerful piece of leadership development programs that, you know, makes all of the best ones. That, you know, that's what I would have to say.
I think when I think about YELP, I think that a lot of for our program, I think a lot of time, and I know some others in the room have been really close to this, is really spent on the selection. And we, you know, get so many top applicants each year, and right, it's about curating for us. Our program is really about curating a group of 60 individuals that can really be a really diverse group of individuals across so many different dimensions, so that when we get into that space, and you know, our program, I think, we're not necessarily, and there's others in the room that have participated in it, we're not necessarily leaning in specific to a certain topic or what's exactly happening in the community right now. It seems like we're taking a step back, and there's a lot of kind of case studies or discussions around maybe what has happened in another community in the past that really, like, that was a failure and didn't go so well, and why was that? Or maybe something that has been successful. And when we're bringing together this really diverse group of individuals with different lived experiences and different perspectives, it can create really dynamic and I don't want to say conflicting, it is conflicting perspectives on why things happened, and being able to have that dialogue civilly and civically and be able to discuss things in which people disagree, and it by no means is contentious discussions at all, but everyone has a different perspective, and so a lot of the program content with ours is like we're reading materials ahead of time, and then you're really having a facilitated discussion with the faculty. And I think being able to be in a space with individuals that are saying like, hey, I respect what you're saying, and I also very much disagree. I think it's X, Y, Z, and I think especially now in the environment and that we're in, but whether that's politically and everything, that can be a hard kind of thing to do. And I think that's something that's a big value of our program and just programs in general, of being in a space with individuals that are different from you, in addition to the networking and in addition to the content. But I think, Matt, you had said the phrase like ways of thinking or ways of knowing. There's so many different ways of being. And so putting yourself in spaces in which you're by people who are different than you, I think it opens your eyes, but then also both different ways of thinking, but also maybe just reflection on yourself as well. So I think that's another opportunity that kind of all comes along with what we've heard of just the uniqueness of participating in a leadership program versus just independently doing the readings or independently networking. I think that's a plus or an advantage to that.
So, well, this has been super rich. For those of you watching this after the fact, you don't have the privilege of, I guess, being in the room with some really incredible people who are participated in programs like this. And we're going to break up and have a little bit of a conversation so that they can share their perspective and people that are here can ask some questions. So I'm just going to end with one that maybe we'll make it a little more rapid fire. And the question is I imagine it can be kind of like demystifying. Once I find one of these programs like in the database, I'm like, how can I participate in this? Like there's some sort of like a barrier, perceived or real barrier to participating. And to share what I mean, like the program I said like changed the trajectory of my life and career. Like nobody at my employer told me about it. Like I heard about it from somebody, and then I had to like figure out politically what was the way that I would talk to my supervisor about like, is this something I could do? And that's like, depending on the position you're in, like a really hard thing. I've got a member of my team now who wasn't going to bring forward a program to me that she wanted to participate in because she thought the sticker price was too high for an organization to afford. And had I not been able to call my friend Ulysses here and tell her, like, oh no, there's actually scholarships, like they don't advertise scholarships, like she wouldn't have applied. So what piece of advice do you have for someone who's like thinking about how would I even go about figuring out if I can do this? If they see a program that might look interesting.
I think learning how to have good conversations with your supervisor is just not just for leadership programs, but a really necessary thing that more people need to be skilled at. And it's being more upfront and having more communication with your supervisors of what is it that you want, whether it's professional development or some type of promotion in your career, identifying certain goals and specific things that you want, and being realistic and understanding you might not be able to get that today if you ask for it, but work with your supervisor to develop a plan of how to get there rather than just, hey, can I do this leadership program? No, it's not in the budget. Okay, I tried. And then that just gets deflated. But understand, go into the conversation expecting that it can't happen today, but say, okay, how can I get into this leadership program? What do I need to do in order to get there? How much money do I have to, how much additional revenue do I have to make the organization in order to do it? And also just have some clear benefits to your employer of like, rather than it's just beneficial to you. And so obviously you're incentivized to do it, but why should your employer necessarily pay for your tuition to go through these programs? Try to make a case ahead of time before they say no as to how it would benefit them, and try to think of it in, try to quantify what those benefits are. And hopefully that'll help. But that's helpful for promotions too.
I think I kind of was thinking in a similar vein when considering this question, but really you are and you should cultivate the skill to be your own best advocate. So whether it's a promotion, whether it's another kind of like continued learning and development opportunity with whether it's a leadership development program. Part of it is just that it's a skill and it's a muscle that you build. It's not something that at least many people are inherently, born with this sense of like confidence and self-assuredness enough so to just like walk into a room and be like, I deserve to participate in this leadership development program, $7,000, please. So start with the small stuff, pitch the idea, talk about, like ask the clarifying question in a meeting, correct the mispronunciation of your name when it happens, like use those moments to build that skill. And then, when you're doing, when it's time to do that pitch, it'll feel a lot easier if you have some of those muscles already built up.
So I agree with what's been said. I'll not to repeat that, I'll just give two other pieces that came to mind. I think one is when you're looking to, if you find a leadership program that you're interested in participating, like reach out to them, ask those questions, right? If you're seeing that there's a barrier because of cost, right? Reach out like, hey, are there scholarship opportunities? Are there, and kind of do some of that, have those conversations. I think of that like when you're going to have a conversation with your supervisor and they ask questions about it. I think it sets you up really well to say, oh, I reached out and I got this information and shows that you kind of had taken some of that initiative to have those conversations. And then second, I'd say, don't be discouraged either if you apply to a program and you don't get in. Apply again. And right, there are a number of people that are all interested in these opportunities, and for many different reasons, you may not have been selected, and that often is not a direct reflection on you personally, right? It's this, especially when I think about our program, we're really curating this program, and so we have so many fantastic qualified applicants, and they might not be selected the first time they apply. Apply again, and just think of like, right, we don't always get things the first time, and we continue to get different opportunities and seek those, apply again, or have a conversation with somebody of what more you could do to kind of enhance your application. And so I think that would be kind of just that perseverance and not being discouraged if it doesn't happen right away. There are so many different ways to be involved and different opportunities that come along the way.
Awesome. Well, how about a round of applause for So that'll wrap up our portion if you're watching afterwards. For those of us in the room, we've got some time